You're listening to the Savoir Faire audio experience.
Are you ready?
The Savoir Faire experience is your guide to everything that has to do with lifestyle. From dating, rides, style, and entertainment. All brought to you by the editor of Savoir Faire magazine, Robert White. Anything goes on this audio experience. So, let's go.
It's still the best.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Savoir Faire audio experience. Today, we've got a soon-to-be legendary guest, for sure. Today, we're talking with Whey Jennings, who is a Nashville recording artist and singer-songwriter. We're going to deep dive into music and a little bit of Whey's story. I think this is going to be a really educational and informational kind of episode. So I'm excited to talk with Whey and the different perspectives he's going to have on life and music. So, Whey, how's it going, man? How was your day?
It's going good, man. I'm having a great day today. How about you?
Yeah, it's lovely. Tuesday here. The weather is nice. You're based in Nashville now, or are you in Texas?
I'm in Pennsylvania right now.
Oh, Pennsylvania. You're on the road.
No, I live in Pennsylvania. I was born in Texas. I do all my work in Nashville, but I met a woman, I fell in love with her, and we got married, had babies, and now we just kind of have a homestead here in Pennsylvania.
Understandable. So we're neighbors because I'm in New York, but I'm in country New York. I'm not in city New York.
I just left country New York. I was up there this past weekend.
Okay. Do you know where you were at?
I was up in Malone.
Malone? Okay. I've not heard of that. What's that near?
It's upstate New York. It's up there by St. Regis Falls.
Okay.
Maybe, let me think. Buffalo. It's pretty close to Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's a different section of where I'm actually. I'm in the western part of the state, so I'm a little bit more closer to wine country, the Finger Lakes, stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but solid, man. Well, hey, I'm excited to connect with you and just talk about music. I did a little deep dive into who Whey Jennings is today, but obviously you knew a whole lot more about your story. So I just kind of want to guide a conversation between the two of us. And one thing that I was really interested in learning about with you, I guess, is really kind of before music, because you didn't really start performing and kind of getting out there until into your adult years, right? So there's a whole section of your life where music may have been a part of it, maybe not. And I'm hoping you can kind of just give me some backstory. So before you actually started recording and kind of putting things out the way you are now, who's way before that? Can you talk to me a little about your past?
Yeah, definitely. I was born in Dallas. I was raised in Grand Prairie, Texas, where I made a lot of mistakes in my life. I grew up running around the wrong crowd, you know what I mean? Kind of got addicted to some things I probably shouldn't have. And then at that point, I moved away from home and moved in with my dad to kind of get away from all that. And then at that point, I went into the oil field for about a year, and then started running with the wrong crowd there too. And then went to work on a cotton farm. And that's where I really learned how to be a man, was on that cotton farm, man. That was 10 years of my life. That was really hard pressing work. It was get up before the sun comes up and don't go to bed until it's been down for a long time. And I really learned how to work my butt off there. And then, my mom got sick about 10 years into that, so I moved back to Dallas and took care of her until she passed away. And then before she passed away, she asked me to do something with music. And when she passed away, it kind of sent me right back down that rabbit hole, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I was back into the music business. I was into the music business, and I was doing everything wrong because I had a bad mindset about life at that point. I was a mama's boy. I had just lost my mom, and, I was drinking way too much, drugging way too much. But that was the beginning of my music career there. And I say the beginning of my music career, but I never really started actually looking at it as a path until probably the last 5 years of my life when I got sober. So beforehand, I was a reckless kid who became an oil field worker and then became a farmhand for about 10 years.
Wow, man. I'm going to give you props because addiction is not something that's easy to overcome. And I'm so glad that you found something to kind of grip and grab onto that will lead you out of that lifestyle. I mean, I was a rowdy kid when I was younger too, and kind of grew up and did some stuff. But at the end of the day, like it's so good to hear you say 5 years of sobriety and this is me now. And like seeing some of the stuff that I saw of you today online with your music, like it's incredible, man. Like I don't see that piece of you. I see the lessons and I see like a really strong man from the things that you went through, but I see like, I see a really tough guy right now. Like you definitely have you're going the right direction, man. I love what I'm seeing from my perspective. So, well, very cool. I mean, I knew you started music kind of late, like in your 30s, right? Like you started when you were like 30?
Yeah, I was 30 years old, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So talk to me about like that process. Like, was that, your mom's request? Obviously, that's a huge thing to have mom request that and then lose her. I'm sure that was a big piece of kind of focusing on music, but was there inspiration? Like, were you getting inspiration from family? Were you getting inspiration from things that were happening in life? I mean, I think I saw a video where you were talking about your grandfather's passing and writing music for him like 20 years ago, which would be before you were 30. So there's always been a little piece of this for you, right?
Yeah, music's always been a huge part of my life, man. Of course, my grandfather's Waylon Jennings. I mean, he's been a touring musician his whole life, and till he passed away. And then, of course, my grandmother, and I have a family full of great musicians. I got my Uncle Shooter. I got my cousin Struggle. We're all out here trying to do this and make a living. And, we've all had to climb our own mountains. You know what I mean? But we all draw inspiration from different places. My main inspiration was, of course, my musical family, of course, but a lot of it came from sitting around with my mom playing Farkle and Dominoes as a kid, listening to her record collection. And that's one thing her and my dad had in common was they both had these really huge record collections full of great music. So our houses were always filled with music. So when it came time when she asked me to do this, I knew I had the arsenal to do it because I had been listening to music my whole life. And of course, I lean on my grandfather because, he's my grandfather, but he's also one of the greatest musicians ever. I've just always connected with his music and his songwriting style and his deliverance, the way he just, he had this whole demeanor about him. And when he went out and played music, he knew he had it. He didn't ever get to second guess himself. He just went out there and he did it to the best of his ability. He didn't try to be an actor. He didn't try to change this to be like this. He just went out there and delivered himself as himself. And that's kind of where I got my inspiration from. It's like, that's how you do it, and that's how you do it correctly. You go out there and you be yourself 100%. Because the moment you try to veer off that path, that's when you're going to fall on your face. Because you can't be anything other than yourself.
Exactly.
And if yourself ain't good enough, go find something else to do. But in my case, I believe that what I do is very beneficial not only to me and my soul, but I see how it affects other people. And as long as it keeps affecting people like that, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, man. I think that's the best you can do. I mean, you have to kind of be yourself. I think I struggle with a lot of that stuff, even in my world, being editor of a magazine and doing some other stuff that I did in the entertainment industry as well. Like, if you don't just kind of build your brand, your own personal branding, I think that's what people get attached to, obviously, because you're putting yourself out there. It's the lyrics that you're singing. It's a little bit of branding, but like not a ton, because just being yourself is like the thing the audiences attach themselves to the most. I think that's what, your grandfather kind of, in interviews that I've seen with him and seeing some stuff with that, I think that's a big piece. Your other family members, obviously you're really heavily focused on that personal branding aspect. And that's what I like about some of the stuff and why we're connected today too, is that there is kind of a coattails type of environment, right? When you have really strong people in your family that have great names, like your grandfather, there's a possibility to go on the coattails and just ride some of that energy to your own place. But you're taking that knowledge and education and stuff from the other members of your family and other artists that you've met, I'm sure, throughout the years, and building your own thing and being your own person instead of doing the coattail thing. And that's what makes you so unique to me as like an artist, is that you do have the name, which is amazing. It's great to let people know the story and have the name, but at the same time, you're a very individualized artist with your writing and your ability, especially with the new album and the new songs and the content. Like the things that you're writing about are things that are controversial, but need to be said, right?
That's exactly true. Yeah, me and my uncle just sat down and we was talking about a lot of this, like any other profession in the world, you'd be expected to follow the footsteps of your ancestors. But for some reason, in the music business, if you even think about doing what your ancestors do, you automatically get accused of riding coattails.
Yeah,
It's
weird.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? It really is. But the thing about it is, in our family, ain't none of us ever rode any coattails. My grandfather wouldn't have allowed it. Nobody in our family has been able to do that. We've all had to come up through the mountain and climb that mountain on our own because it's our path. There's the thing about it. In this business, you have to be authentic. You can't come out there and be anything other than yourself and be not authentic, because you'll come across as hollow. And when you come across as hollow, you get this pseudoism going on, you know, and that don't work. You know what I mean? You either got it or you don't. And it don't matter who you're related to or where you've been in your life. You've either got it or you don't. And, you know, so far I've gotten a really pretty big fan base, and I really enjoy what I do, and I'm able to use my platform to do good in this world. I speak on addiction. I speak on my relationship with God, and I try to use my music to make a profound effect in the world. You know, I'm not out here trying to just be this guy who's singing songs and then is forgotten once you leave. I want to be a guy who leaves a piece of him on every table he sits at, you know. I want to be the guy who actually cares about what's going on in the world around me. And the things I care about are like God, family, country, and helping people who are suffering from drug addiction or any other kind of addiction or any kind of disease. I'm a very heartfelt human being, and I like to be a part of the solution rather than being a part of the problem. And, you know, it's just, that's the way I've decided to live my life. And I thank my grandfather with all my heart for giving me the ability to grow a platform this size to do that much good in the world, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you, Whey. And I think that's exactly what your mission and legacy is going to be, man. Like, there's definitely going to be your music and using that as a platform, using the last name, whatever you decide. But like, you've been through hell and back. I listened to Sleeves today. You were that man, and you came out of it stronger, got right with God, fixed yourself, and now having that knowledge and being able to change other people's lives because of the knowledge you have from that. I mean, that's huge. And I think that's going to be part of your legacy for sure, man. Like that's a big piece for me too. I'm also in my mid 40s right now, and I'm deeply thinking about legacy. What am I going to leave behind for my children? You and I got some kind of cool little things that I was doing some research on. So we are both in our 40s, also singer-songwriter, but don't do it as heavy as you, obviously. Was in Nashville for a long time. Know a lot of the same people that you have talked to and interviewed and worked with too, which is kind of cool. Both have 6 kids. We're probably a couple hours from living from each other. There's a lot of cool little things that are kind of cool, man. So like, I love the story because I'm like, yeah, wait, with the exception of like direction in life, right? Like that's unique, but I feel like we're both really in that life phase of like, okay, I really have to start focusing on legacy and what I'm going to leave behind for my children and what's going to be there for them and how do we move forward. And I think that's really unique, man. And like, I like also the concept of you saying every table you sit at is going to be where you want to leave your mark, because that's a small thing to think about, like in an idea of just sitting down with 3 or 4 people. But if you're changing a life with 3 or 4 people, and then you get a massive audience of 50, 60, 70,000 people at a concert, you know, for you someday, that's an even huger platform. And I think that's really cool that you're looking at it from, you know, a smaller kind of point as well. And I also like the idea that you guys had to climb the mountain. There was nothing handed to you. There's no coattail thing happening here, that you really just kind of became your own artist, discovered yourself, found your own path, and then made this thing. And, you know, you're blessed in the idea that you have this last name and that you have a strong music family that you can use as education, but not someone that will hold you up. You can hold yourself up.
Yes, sir. That's the way it is, man. I mean, that's the way it is for anybody in our lives, man. I like the way you're talking about legacy, but I'm focusing on the legacy of this world we're living in right now. You know, the world we're living in has got a lot of trouble going on right now, and it can be easily fixed if we all came together and fixed it. You know what I mean? I mean, right now we got a lot of division, a lot of hatred, a lot of addiction, a lot of things that they're easily fixed if we all came together and loved one another. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's what I love about this album so much, is that I was able to touch on the things that mean the most to me, which is my relationship with God, my relationship with my wife and kids, my relationship with this country and the state it's in, my relationship with drug addiction. I mean, these are all things that are important to me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I speak at seminars. That's why I'm doing this mobilized recovery thing that I'm doing in September and October. That's why I'm doing a 21 days of awareness on my social media right now, right, that's going around the sleeves thing, is because I believe that a few small little chess moves made by everybody in this country, in this world, actually, could actually send us in a direction that would be so beneficial for everybody, it would blow our minds. Mm-hmm. You know, like drug addiction, smoking cigarettes, all these things, if we could just move that over to the side, you know, everybody got a clear mind, I believe everything else would heal itself, you know. This world is hurting. It's hurting bad. And we're in social media and all this stuff. It's kind of a catch-22. I mean, it's beneficial to business. It's beneficial for communication. But the problem I have with it is on the internet, you get more clicks for hate than you do for hope, you know?
Yeah.
So people are spewing all this hate, you know, so they can get more clicks and make more money. And they're doing it for business purposes. It ain't like, but you go out here in the real world, everybody's like, I love you, and holding doors, and yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It's really, really a beautiful thing outdoors, you know what I mean? But we're all believing that there's this hate out here, and it's causing us to dive so deep into our addictions that I believe that we should just all get a hold of this and realize what's real and start trying to be a part of the solution rather than a part of the problem. And I think we can do that. All we got to do is come together and do it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'm all for that mission as well. I feel you, like every word you just said. That's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to be a part of your story and be able to put your information out to my audience, because you become an advocate for a lot of really strong things that need to change in this world. And obviously through this album. So let's definitely talk about, you know, Jacqueline Hyde and this kind of concept that you created around this album. I mean, we know Jacqueline Hyde, like the story, but like from your perspective, where does this album kind of come into play besides all the things you just mentioned? Is there a bigger kind of, I mean, a point to this? Like where's the creative aspect come, all of that? Like talk to me just in general about some of the songs and the background and some of this stuff.
Well, Jacqueline Hyde is a song about facing your inner demons, you know what I mean? And what can happen if you don't, you know, keep your inner demons in check? Because, you know, we've all got the good part of us and the bad part of us. It just depends on which side we let shine, you know what I mean? Because we all got this battle going on inside of us. It's like whenever we come across a problem, our mind automatically gives us two directions to go. We could do the underhanded direction, or we could do the right direction, you know? And that's what our inner demons are about. It ain't just our inner demons, it's our inner demons and inner angels, you know? So there's this constant war going on inside us. And I know this better than a lot of people because I've constantly got to keep myself in check because of where I've been in my life. So that's what Jacqueline Hyde is about, is like bringing to everybody's mind that this is the war that we're fighting on, that we keep hidden from everybody, that's going on inside of our bodies. This is the war, and this is what can happen if the inner demon wins. And that's what I wanted to accomplish with that song in particular. And then from there, I went, you know, I got a military family who all, when they came home from the military, went into trucking. You know, and trucking was a big deal in my family, from my stepdad to my uncles. You know, just a bunch of people in my family were truckers. So I decided to do 10-day run and put that on this album as well. I wanted to touch on drug addiction with Sleeves. I went really deep in that. On my last EP, I did a song called Just Before the Dawn. And I kind of aimed it at drug addiction and people who are drug addicts, try to give them, you know, a little bit of direction to go if they need help, you know. And then I realized about halfway through the year that, you know, you can't just aim songs at people who are going through it. You have to aim songs at people who love the people that are going through it, the support systems, the people who may have been giving up on them, the people who've had enough, the people who's really trying to keep a hold of themselves, those kind of people. And that's why I wanted to do Sleeves, is because it's kind of a through a window view of the life of a drug addict. I mean, they still fall in love. They still live their lives. They still, some things make them happy. They still go through this, but then they decide to go down this dark path. And it's a thing that they keep hidden from the people they love. And that's why I did Sleeves, is because I want people to understand that the drug addiction does not make somebody not human. It makes somebody sick. You know, I mean, this is something we need to heal, and we can't heal it by turning our backs on it. Because it's getting to the point in this world that when you turn your back on drug addiction, it's still staring you right in the face, because it's all around us. We got to do something about this. But I didn't want to go to that dark place without bringing a little bit more light into it. So I decided to focus on what happened to me when I got sober. And when I got sober, I got started flooding with all these future aspirations. Like, I wanted to see beautiful things. I want to live in a decent neighborhood that's got flowers growing around. I want to be able to buy some land and build a house. And there's just all these things I want to do one of these days, you know? So we put this beautiful song in there called One of These Days. And it's what I want everybody to grab a hold of, because that's what we all need to be doing. If we don't have these wants and aspirations for our future, then we're doing it wrong. We got something going on in our lives that's blocking that want from our lives. And without that want, we're not happy. And happiness is important, you know? So if you don't have these future aspirations that I'm singing about in One of These Days, we need to figure out a way how to get you those, because that's where happiness comes from, are the beautiful things in life. The sunny days, the flowers, the birds, all the life's beauty that's all around us, man. I mean, you got to have a strong faith in God and the ability to see through the darkness to what the actual gift of life is, which is all the beautiful things. The little kids running around playing at the park, all that stuff. Little puppies chasing frisbees. I mean, you know what I mean? All the nice, beautiful things in life, you know? That's what I want for everybody. I don't want to be this guy who's looking down at somebody, this guy who's like making somebody feel like I'm bigger than them and they're small. I'm not that guy. What I am is I'm trying to show people that there is this beautiful life out here that anybody can partake in. All they got to do is just shove the darkness away, and it's right on the other side of it. You know?
Yep.
It's right there. All you got to do is go get it. You know, and it's just a wonderful thing. And it's something I'm experiencing right now as we speak. And I just want everybody to experience it, because it's something that I didn't know for many, many years in my life, and something I do know now. And it's so wonderful, and it's so easy to regret all the years that I spent not knowing this. And I don't want anybody else to finally find it later in life and wish they had found it years and years before, when they could have known about it and didn't. You know, and that's where One of These Days is coming from. Is the beauty in life, the things that people are missing out on while they're destroying their lives, you know?
Yeah, man, I love that. I love that concept too. And you mentioned, I mean, just in that moment, thanks so much for those words, by the way, because those are incredible. But like, there's a lot built around all the stuff that you just said. There's a lot of things about waking up in the morning and being motivated and being excited to be alive and have another day on earth, and kind of appreciating all the little things that are around you. I saw like a video on YouTube one time where they were talking to Will Smith about life, and he was talking about going skydiving and whatever. And he said the biggest moments in your life are on the other side of fear. And that kind of quote stayed with me, which is just like yours, man. On the other side of the darkness is where all this excitement and stuff is. And like, I mean, I guess we could dive into this a little bit. I mean, the music is obviously a huge piece, but you know, you're a strong advocate for getting people clean. So, I mean, give me a perspective, because Sleeves is like that song. Sleeves was like, when I watched the video, you're either, I mean, in the video, are you like the brother of the guy or like a friend to the girl? What's the character role there?
Well, I like to leave it kind of up to the imagination.
I felt like you were his brother. Yeah.
I could be her brother. I'm one of their brothers. It just depends on your situation.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I don't want to tack myself into one spot, because, you know, there's people out there who have brothers that are going through it, people out there who have sisters going through it. People out there have mothers and fathers going through it, and people. When it comes to drug addiction, there's so many points of view on it, in so many ways, different ways it's affecting people. That's one of them things you got to leave up to the imagination.
Yeah, man. I
I
watched it.
am
I was like,
whoever you want me to be in that.
yeah, for me,
I am you.
exactly.
Know what I mean?
Yeah. So what's the perspective from that? Like, give me like the one educated point of, I know someone that's an addict. I know they're reaching out for help. What's my position to help them? What would you tell people to like help that person to be a little bit more on the mindset of you, because you have so much experience with this kind of lifestyle, more than anybody else does, I think. Well, most people do. So what's the right way to do that?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. There's a right way to do it. Best thing you can do is get educated on it. Get educated on it. Talk to people who have lived it. You know what I mean? And follow your heart. Follow your heart and not your mind. You got to realize what's good for people and what's bad for people. Like us as humans, we usually have this mindset. We think we can just throw money at a problem. You know what I mean? Here's some money, go fix yourself. That is not the way it's going to work when it comes to drug addiction. And you also can't tough love that. You got to really go against the grain when it comes to drug addiction, because like even as a parent, whenever you see your kids doing wrong, your first reaction is tough love,
Yeah.
But when it comes to drug addiction, you can't do that. When you use tough love, it sends them further into their drug addictions because they're already fragile and, depressed. And even no matter what kind of outward appearance they have, the reason why they can't look you in the eyes, the reason why they stay away when they're doing what they're doing is because they're scared and they're fragile. You go and try to tough love them, they're going to collapse. And it's going to reinforce their ability to go get high. It's going to justify their actions in their own minds. And I know it doesn't sound right to anybody who's never been there, but that's exactly what it does. It's just depression. I mean, you're looking for a reason to justify that depression. You're looking for a reason to go and do what your body's asking you to do. You know what I mean? But what you really need is something that tells you not to do that. You need to have somebody that's on your side, somebody that's in your corner, somebody that's there to talk to when you need to talk, somebody that's supporting your decisions whenever it's your time to do that. So when it comes to sobriety, you can't force somebody to get sober. You can't force somebody to go to rehab, because a lot of people think rehab is a cure. Rehab is not a cure. Rehab is a place to go to find the knowledge you need and the resources you need to find your own path to sobriety, which is dealt to you by you,
Mm-hmm.
But if you force somebody to go to rehab, they're just going to go in there and they're going to make a bunch of drug connections, So there's three kinds of people that go to rehab. There's people who are forced to go by the state, people who are forced to go by your family, and people who actually want to get help, And the third one is the one that's going to get the help, because you got to want it. If you don't want it, you're just going to sit there and waste time just to get out of there,
Yeah.
because you've been forced to go.
Right.
So that's what
Yeah, there's a passive thing there. I had a friend that was, in a deep hole and was really in a bad situation. I got a late phone call at night one time, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And there's part of you that, like, when you're not involved, part of you wants to stay not involved. But then there's other part where you just have to respect other humans. And so, yeah, I took a late night drive and picked this person up and brought him to my home and put him in my bed, and I slept on the couch, and they stayed and went through all the withdrawals and went through everything in my care. And it was like one of the craziest situations I've ever dealt with, and had no education on it at all. But on the other end of that, when they were clean and excited about life and all of those things, like, I put them on a bus and sent them home to their mama, basically, in another state. And it was just like, kind of like, for me, it was overwhelming and stressful. But at the end, I was so glad that I did, because I really feel like I saved a life. And then now that person's married, that person has a kid, their life is completely different. And I feel like I did intervene in the right position, and I was put there for a reason. And it was my position to do that for that one person. But like, education aspects like you're talking about, like that makes a lot more. If I was so more educated, I would have been able to handle some of the things that were happening there a whole lot better. Because when you don't understand what someone's going through, because there's probably a perspective of like, you chose that. And sometimes they do in the very beginning. But once it's more involved, it's not a choice anymore. It is an addiction, right? So, I mean, it makes sense that that's strong. Man, I definitely want to make sure we get my audience to kind of check you out because I'm sure you're full of knowledge and I want them to be following you and checking out your stuff. So wheyjennings.com is the website, right? And then is it also Whey Jennings on Instagram, Facebook, all the social platforms?
Yep, every one of them. Okay, Whey Jennings, WHEYJENNINGS.
Amazing,
a weird
man.
First name, but it's mine, and I wear it like a badge of honor, man.
Yo, bro, I love the first name. Whey is so cool, man. I'm all for it. So, yeah, I dig it. And when I saw it at first, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then as I started doing more research, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. It fits this man, this individuality that you're creating. So, man, thank you so much for talking with me today. Thank you for being vulnerable, and thanks so much for the knowledge that you just dropped on us because, your mission is a noble one, and I'm sure you're going to go really far as long as you stay that humble person that you currently are. I mean, I'm definitely going to be watching you and seeing what's going on. And if you're doing shows somewhere nearby, we should definitely connect because I would love to come see you live and be able to shake your hand. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your week.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a minute to head over to www.savfair.com and subscribe to our publication.